I was brought down to try to help bring this film today for the disaster of the Buffalo Creek flood. And I can remember it. It's been 20 years, but I can remember it as like it was yesterday. At that time I was deputy sheriff in that area, and I was a couple's home at Ackerville. I was guarding them where they from Wednesday prior to the flood. I was called in by the sheriff to guard these couple that life had been threatened, that someone had called and threatened to kill them, or they wanted $10,000. So I stayed with them day and night up until the morning we got the call at like about 5 o'clock in the morning or some, give or take a few minutes or so, that the superintendent had called the jail at Logan and told them that there was danger that the dam might break, that it had been raining extremely heavy all night long, and I was staying up at these couple's houses. Their life had been threatened, and I got a call at 5 o'clock, and I picked up the phone. I thought it was the people that was threatening, but when I got the call that early in the morning, but it was Larry Spriggs, was the jailer at the jail, and he said, "Max, do you know about a dam up at Loretta?" I said, "Yeah, I know about one up there." He said, "We got a call from the mine superintendent up there that there's danger that it might break." And I called the sheriff, and he wanted you to go up to there and to warn the people in each community all the way up as far as you can go, to tell them that it is danger that the dam might break. I told him, I said, "Well, I'll have to go home and get my patrol car," because I drove my personal car up to these people's house. I didn't want to be sitting out there with a patrol car, and if I'm trying to catch a criminal, you know, somebody's threatening somebody's life. So I went down and got my patrol car, and I headed back up at Buffalo Creek. That was about 15 to 17 miles, somewhere in that area. And luck would have it that the mines up in that area was all working, and we had men standing out by the road that would ride with other miners. And I would stop and tell them that I can't go from door to door. I don't have enough time.
Did you actually get a radio call that the dam had broke, or was it just a heightened danger that they feared that the dam was going to break?
Well, the superintendent called the jail and said that he's afraid that it might break.
When did you first get news that actually the dam had broke?
Well, this is what I was going to lead up to. I went up through there to each community, and I stopped at every community and told as many people as I could see out. I had to go, those communities.
You've heard this before, hadn't you?
Right, and they said, "We've heard this before." He said, "There's some of us that stayed out on the mountainside. Every time it rains hard, that we get out, and then the people start saying the dam's going to break, the dam's going to break." And so we stayed out on the mountainside all night, and by being scared by after it rains real hard. And said, "You can't pay no attention to this." I said, "Well, I'm just doing my job. I was told to come up here that the superintendent of the coal company called that there's danger that it might break." So I went up to there and told as many people. As a matter of fact, I got up to Laredo, my patrol car. I had a flat tire on the rear, and there was some coal miners there that changed my tire for me. After I got my tire changed, I went on up as far as I could go. There was a big slide across the road, and this superintendent that called into the jail was there at that slide. I couldn't go no farther. So he said, "Well, we've channeled around the dam and relieve some of the pressure, so I think you don't have to worry about it no more. I believe we've got relieved some of the pressure. I said, well, boy, I hope so, because Otto Meadows, he was with me come up, and
He was chief deputy.
he was
during
chief
that
deputy at that time, yeah. And he said, you all can quit worrying about it. We was just above the low rate of school at maybe a quarter of a mile when. But he said, I had my restaurant down with Man City Limits. I said, I'm going down to get some breakfast. I'm glad of it, that it's not going to be it's not a danger, or that he don't think it's a danger. But on the way back out, I didn't tell these people what he had told me. I wanted them to still be on guard, that there is danger it might come, because I didn't know it could. As a matter of fact, the superintendent, he couldn't be sure. So I come back down, and I had my breakfast, and I was having a second cup of coffee when Otto Mothers, the chief deputy, he come in and said, Max, I just got a call that 2 children fell in the creek up at the stove, which is up that way. And he said, I'm going up through. I said, well, I'll get my coat, and I'll be right behind you in my car. So we both started up there. He was in front of me, and we got up as far as Ackerville at the Charlie Mills store. And there's one of the two-way radio little Jeeps that these coal companies use was flagging us down there. And when he flagged us down, he said, well, I just got a call over this two-way radio we use that the dam's broke and it's bringing everything out, all the houses and people, and just cleaning the whole valley out. So I went back. I said, well, Otto said he had to go get his place, that business down there, closed up, and his family braced for it. And I said, well, I have to too. So I went and got my wife and children, took them to her mother's house that lived up on the hill there at Low Ash. And then I started back up to go meet to see how far I could get before I met the flood itself.
You actually run into the
Right.
wall of...
I got up there to what they call the old Wesley house, or about where Emersdale, right below Emersdale Grade Elementary School. And all I could see was a big wall of mass of trees and cars, houses, people actually in the houses screaming and hollering. I've seen people laying over on their stomach in bridges, pulling people out of the water. But this time I went up there, nobody didn't say it, because this time I could tell them it's right behind me. I followed it all the way out from that point on. But I come all the way out of the holler, and at times it would wedge up. It just wedge up and stop and just build up pressure. It was the highest mass of stuff from one side to the other as a utility pole is tall.
This would be mud and debris and...
Trees, houses, cars, all kinds of just debris of all kinds.
And the sound, I've heard people mention the sound, that this was the sound that it made as it came down through there was
Yeah. Well, when I first met it, I didn't have no place to turn around. I had to back to highway to a place for where I could turn around. The sheriff radioed me on the radio, and he said, where are you at, Max? I said, I just run into this flood up here. He said, you get out of there, and I mean get out now. I said, well, I'm coming out in front of it and warning what people I can that it's right behind me. And the people were hysterical. When I'd tell them it's right behind me and bringing everything out.
This was early on a Saturday morning.
Right. Around 5 minutes till 8 or something when the dam broke, or 8 o'clock in the morning. Lucky it was on a Saturday, because children would have been in school if it hadn't been, and they could have been drowned in these schools.
We should point out that Buffalo Creek is what, 18, 20 miles long? And
17 miles, I believe it was.
The dam had broke up in the very head of the holler, and it's a long, narrow, heavily populated, heavily industrialized area with basically one way out, and that's back down towards man.
Yeah, I drove a school bus up there prior to being a deputy sheriff. I needed help. I was short-handed on school bus drivers. And you get attached to those children by driving the school bus. And when I got the word that dam had broke, it really scared me, and I was afraid that all these little children that I'd hauled, that I have been on my bus, that I've taken to school, that I could just almost picture their bodies being, all of them drowned.
Is that the case?
No, it wasn't some of them. Some of them, I know two out of one family that rode my bus. Well, there was quite a few, but these two especially, that you get to know some of them real well. That was Davis family up there. That two out of the family was killed. Used to ride my bus. But after I had some of them that would even clean my bus for me, when I'd have a layover like so many minutes before. As a matter of fact, they would clean it just about all the time for me. But I did. That's what got me close to the kids, and that's why I was worried so bad.
Your story is pretty much an untold story, Max. We've seen the books that's been wrote about the flood, and we've heard lots of stories, but you were actually the first emergency responder on the scene. And I know we've talked a lot about this before the show today, and your story's been, there's lots of untold stories about the flood. We do these things for fire and rescue, emergency service people across the nation, and Buffalo Creek is a historic and major disaster, and you were actually the first emergency responder on the scene. And I know you told me about going for days and days afterwards, and how exhausting it was, and how there seemed to be it was overwhelming.
Yeah, I would go down to the visit where they put all the bodies, to check out the bodies that was laying in the gymnasium down at the school. And they had a temporary morgue made out. And I would check over the names that they just put a tag on their toe, It was awful.
I know that Ruth was...
that's the only way I could identify them, The first body that I found when I went back up after the flood waters had went down was behind Buffalo Elementary School. And that water and stuff, the bodies that I found wasn't just mangled or nothing, but they had stripped all the clothing off of them, the shoes, everything.
What would you recommend to emergency responders should they come up, heaven forbid, something like this should ever happen again anywhere? And hopefully maybe one thing that we can accomplish here today is to maybe prepare the emergency people that may run into something like this in the future. Do you have any recommendations for them, or suggestions, or?
Well, not really. I just don't see where there's anything that you can do in a situation like this was up there. I mean, it was my understanding that this dam, which I know it was made out of slate, it's like a slate dump, how they catch fire.
Tell me that your brother...
My brother, yeah, he was working up there at that mines at the time that this happened. And this water backed up, maybe 2 miles back from mountain to mountain. And this dam was made out of slate. I mean, it was a huge, big guy. You could almost...
Actually, it was 3 dams.
Yeah, you could almost land an airplane on it. It was such a big dam. It seemed like it's almost impossible for it to come out like it did. But my brother said he was there they were working on it. And he was using bulldozers and that. Well, that water got down into where this fire was, down in the center of this dam, and when it did, it created like an explosion, steam explosion. And so it looked like an atomic bomb roll of rings coming up out of this dam, just before it got down into those hot coals and just had a steam explosion. So it rolled out and just blew right up and everything started coming out at once.
Rescue in this modern world has become a real challenge to technology. AMCUS has accepted that challenge. We build lightweight rescue tools with dynamic forces to help accident victims everywhere. With more than 350 million automobiles on the road worldwide, AMCUS is there to provide rescue teams with swift and reliable extrication tools. And with thousands of jet aircraft encircling the globe, AMCUS equipment has enabled crews to evacuate passengers from crippled planes. AMCUS is used for rescue on ocean vessels, in subways and railroad stations, for trucks, farm equipment, in nuclear power plants, and heavy industry. AMCUS is dedicated exclusively to the development and fabrication of rescue tools, and has pioneered its lightweight design, which many engineers thought to be impossible for heavy hydraulic tools. AMCUS offers 5 different rescue tool sets. The Alpha series for squad cars in rural areas and light rescue. The Sigma, a utility set for general extrication. A few weeks ago, the U.S. Navy has placed a new order for 500 sets of this series. Then there is the AMCUS Classic, of which over 2,000 sets are used from coast to coast and in 25 countries around the world. It has helped people to survive from Riyadh to Johannesburg and from Stockholm to Tokyo. And this set was further developed to the new incomparable Golden Hour series with the Quad Power Pack, an exclusive by AMCUS. And finally, there is the AMCUS Mega for trucks and school bus rescue. Innovation and quality have made AMCUS the leader of rescue tools in North America. AMCUS is many steps ahead and meets the challenge of modern extrication. AMCUS should also be your choice.
My story is perhaps somewhat different than others who have been a part of this presentation. As the administrator of the Manhattan Regional Hospital at the time of the Buffalo Creek disaster, we were to cope with perhaps one of the most tragic disasters that ever struck West Virginia. My participation, obviously, is different from those individuals who, according to their reports, saw the water coming down Buffalo Valley. They saw the houses disintegrate. They saw the eruption of the dam. Whereas my participation was the chief executive officer of a healthcare facility that coped with those individuals that were brought to us seeking help. I became aware of the disaster on Saturday morning, approximately 8 o'clock, when I received a telephone call from our executive housekeeper, Leah Consunas, that allegedly a dam had broken up at Saunders, which is some 16, 17 miles from the hospital. Buffalo Creek is a tributary of the Guyandotte River, and fortunately our hospital was above the confluence of the Buffalo Creek and the Guyandotte River. Therefore, we had no problem as far as the waters were concerned. Subsequently, the rupture of the dam was confirmed. And at approximately 9 o'clock, as the administrator of the hospital, I gave what we call the red alert, which would and did implement our hospital disaster program. Personally, I feel that there was no good at all as a result of the Buffalo Creek disaster. Human tragedy, both in loss of life as well as other materialistic losses, never be offset by something good coming out of a situation that the Buffalo Creek flood posed to our area. Fortunately, we had just recently, prior to the rupture of the dam, had updated our disaster plan. And also, fortunately, the Southern West Virginia Regional Health Council had installed a hospital emergency administrative radio, or commonly known then as the HEAR system, in our hospital. Also, there was emergency vehicles based at our hospital. Although we were not licensed to use that communication system, it was still activated, and subsequently we were licensed. In my very humble opinion, the emergency communication system was a godsend to those of us in and around and involved with the Buffalo Creek disaster. By virtue of this wonderful equipment, we were able to communicate directly with the state police, the National Guard, the Air National Guard, and other healthcare administrators in our area within some 50 to 75 air miles. Our hospital was the command center, and we knew beforehand, almost without exception, the condition of a patient or an evacuee, as the case may be, prior to their arrival at our hospital. During this particular time, from the time that we activated our emergency, our disaster plan, until we terminated the plan, we counted 110 deaths at our hospital. There are also 60 people that at that time were considered missing. We treated 511 individuals in our emergency room. 29 of those individuals were admitted to hospital bed, and 645 persons were referred directly to either the Red Cross or some other emergency agency. Altogether, we treated 1,200 survivors out of the Buffalo Creek disaster. It is not my intent today to seek any glory as far as I as an individual is concerned, or for our healthcare facility. But if being permitted to make some recommendations, I would strongly recommend that every area have an emergency program. Certainly, one of those key elements would be a healthcare facility. I strongly recommend that those individuals that are in charge of the emergency programs, whether it be city, county, and or statewide, that they continuously review their programs to update those programs. Neither myself or anyone else on this earth can anticipate a disaster. Disasters take many shapes and many forms. An explosion, a flood, an aircraft crash, a school bus crash, so many forms, so many times, unpredictable. It would behoove any individual that has any thought of protecting their loved ones, their citizens of their community, to subscribe to and participate in every opportunity as far as the emergency medical program is concerned. In closing, my sympathies go to those individuals who suffered loss in the Buffalo Creek disaster, and my appreciation to those wonderful employees that helped me at the Man Appalachian Regional Hospital.